Yeah, let's bring in Abdullah, him from New York. Abdullah, what's going on?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Doing
Awesome.
well. What's up?
Well, my proposition about our existence in this world, you can call the universe at large, the proposition for this universe to have a cause, a creator, why can't we accept that is probably my confusion.
For me, it's because nobody has demonstrated it. Everyone keeps showing up to talk about these things, keeps saying, "Why can't you accept it? Why can't you accept it?" And it's like the same reason I don't accept Santa or unicorns or leprechauns. Those may be ridiculous comparisons on some level, but it's the same reason because nobody's shown these things to be actually true. They just keep saying they. Well, I don't think a lot of people are saying leprechauns are actually true, but I'm sure there's someone out there. So.
Right.
Well, my next question would be, what kind of demonstrative evidences would you accept?
In regards to what? Like, are you talking, which God are you talking about? Like the Christian God? Then which version of the Christian God?
Well,
which
just the
conceptualization
concept of a creator for this creation.
That there's a creator, like generically that there's a creator? And also that when you say, well, there's a creator for this creation, that's circular because you're just asserting that it's a creation and therefore requires a creator definitionally.
Yeah, just like for anything to come into existence, there has to be a cause. There has to be a reason behind it. Like I'm looking at this beautiful ground here in the field and all these plants are moving. I definitely don't see the wind, but the cause behind it is because the wind.
But you can demonstrate the wind is
that's
there.
Kind of very lame to say. Right, that's right.
Right.
So for every single thing, there has to be a cause. Now, this universe, as we know, is finite. It has a definitive time period of beginning and end. So there has to be a reason behind, a cause behind. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of scientific models talking about the total entropy and the heat death of the universe, wherever it ceased to exist.
So let's get back to the kalam, though, right? Because that's what you're running the kalam right now, right? So let's get back to that. So you're saying that anything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, so the universe has a cause, right? So let's get to one of the premises. So the universe began to exist. Demonstrate the truth of that premise.
Oh, well, one of these scientific, there is a lot of, there's over 13 different theories. One of them that we widely accept is the Big Bang, where, prior to this cosmic colossal, there was a singular entity or a mass which actually burst into pieces to form this whole
rapid expansion
cosmological entities.
Okay, so you're talking about the rapid expansion. So that just demonstrates that a rapid expansion occurred. So demonstrate that nothing happened before that it's not cyclical. Demonstrate to me that it's not cyclical.
Well, that's exactly the point. The second argument after kalam is the non-regressive way of our existence.
So now we're talking about
we exist.
So we're talking about theories of time now, right?
Reason.
So now are you talking about theories of time? Like your Hilbert's hoteling it? Okay, so that's a premise that I have an issue with because no one's been able to demonstrate to me that there's a finite point and that nothing, like truly nothing, existed before that. Like there was no such thing as existing before that. And that energy isn't the only constant in the universe. Like to me, it seems like energy is potentially the only constant in the universe. And it seems as though people just have this desire to have this sort of anthropomorphic insertion of something like a human that is going to be the cause of this, like some sort of cognitive entity that has a mental state that made a decision or a determination in order to create for some reason, even though it's also self-sustaining.
Right.
So that which seems like a huge disparity to me that people don't often acknowledge. So you're saying that there's like this perfect God who's perfectly happy, he's perfectly self-sustaining, but one day he was like, you know, it would be cool if I just made a bunch of shit. So I'm gonna do that now. And before that, there was nothing except for this entity who was perfectly whole and self-sustaining and perfectly happy, except he wasn't because he created some stuff. So there's a lot of disparities there for me. The primary one being that you need to do a lot of like dancing around to say, I absolutely know the origin of the universe. I know that there was definitively nothing before that. I know that absolutely.
I haven't claimed anything.
But that's the second premise of your argument.
I think the reason behind the problem I see from your understanding is that you're expecting the creator to be a physical being.
I'm not expecting it. I'm expecting it to be nothing.
Outcome.
No, I'm not. Where did I say it was physical? Where? Like literally, you're telling me I have a problem I don't have because I never said anything about it being physical. So you're just creating a problem and then asserting that problem is the one that I have.
Right. Okay. If you accept the creator to be metaphysical and which can bring things out of nothing, which can create things out of nothing, and also the sole cause of everything else. So basically, this creator has to be non-contingent upon anything else for it to bring it to existence something. So in Islamic perspective, what God says is that are they referring to the creation itself, the creators of themselves? Have they
motivated
created
it to
this
create
universe, the heavens and the earth? What motivated it?
Yeah, what did it
create? The love of God.
So God didn't have anything to love before it created everything? God had nothing to love? It needed to love something?
Absolutely had.
Okay,
so
why did it create then?
Is a infinite, right, so God has infinite, God is an infinite creator. So we don't call the creator as creator because it created it. And we know this universe because in our reality, we understand only this universe. There could be much more beyond it. And God could have been creating for infinite amount of time.
Oh, well, now you're contradicting your own premise. So you're saying that there could have been things before the Big Bang, right? So you're contradicting because God could have created, he's infinite. He could have been creating things for, infinity. So that means that there is no finite point in time, which actually that defeats the premise of your own argument if you're utilizing that as a defense of it. So, and it still doesn't answer the question, why did he create? Because if he's perfectly self-sustaining and he absolutely doesn't require anything, he's all-knowing, all-powerful, omniscient, self-sustaining, but then he was motivated somehow to create, and he was motivated by love, which means now you're attributing him with emotion. So he has cognitive states as well. So you're giving him a cognitive state, and thus he created the entire universe so that he could put one planet around one sun amongst billions to put a bunch of apes on it so that he could have something to love. And thus the universe was created by God.
The idea of the misunderstanding about love. Are we conflating? Probably we are conflating in terms of attributes and the exercise of an attribute. You asked the question that why would God create something to love it? Did God nothing to do before? Did he not nothing to love before? I think the attribute of love and the exercise of that attribute is totally two separate things. We're saying God,
but it would still be a cognitive
is eternally loving. Right. Yeah. God's understanding, our Creator's understanding, He's always loving. He's all loving. Just like Al-Wadud is an attribute in Arabic.
What did He love before He created the universe?
Expressing the love.
What did He love before He created the universe?
What did He love?
Yeah. Before He created the universe, what did He love?
That you can think of.
So what did He love?
Name
though?
one.
So many things that
name one. What did He love?
God is self-loving, first thing.
So He was perfectly self-sustaining.
So if He loves Himself, then why would He need to create something to love? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. I think that there's the gap, right? So this
God wasn't enough for God. God needed more than God. This is what you're saying. God wasn't enough for Himself.
The prime disappointer.
To me, I guess.
No, I am listening. I'm sorry. It's just I don't feel like you're fully answering the questions.
malaika, right? So let me just take 1 minute to state something here.
Okay, for sure.
There
I
are
want
so
you to
many
listen
other
to.
beings which is outside the universe that you and me would physically accept, or some people who would outside this dominion of Islam, they would not comprehend what is a malaika, what is a jinn. Those are also the created objects of God, and some of them pre-exist human beings. Some of them pre-exist the universe itself. So God is eternally talking in a rhetoric way that, I'm going to create this new creation of human being. And these malaika is asking the question, are you going to create a creation who will cause much mischief on this earth? Who would, mischief here refers to misproportionately place things. So, for example, somebody taking away someone's right, somebody taking away others' property, someone killing, or those kind of things are attributed to human beings. So these malaika are asking the question, even before the creation of the universe, they're asking to the God. So no one knows their time period. Our time begins when we know from our creation. So you ask the question, then God simply says, there's so many things that God creates is only comprehensible to God. We would probably come to know maybe if God reveals those information.
So why do you believe it now, though? And also, so it sounds to me like you're saying that there are entities that exist on Earth now that maybe we don't understand because we haven't studied Islam, that pre-existed the universe, which means that God created something so that there wasn't a state of nothing then, because these things existed. And if they can interact on Earth here, then that means that they exist within this universe. So they simultaneously exist within this reality and predated this reality, and that God created them before the universe. And I don't understand how that reinforces. Yeah, but I don't understand how that reinforces any of the premises of your argument, because you're saying there wasn't nothing because he had created things. So nothing wasn't a state that existed. And then he created a universe also. And it still doesn't answer the question of why he created. So can you see why this isn't compelling to me?
Right. Our original premise is that why can't we accept the fact that, many people, I really love and respect the atheists because they are very curious and asking questions. And, one of these scholars, he very beautifully placed, it's rather much better than denying or taking a false object of worship or, understanding it to be creator than taking none. And then I really commend atheists for that because understanding a human being, some people claim Jesus to be God, which is a theological no-no in Islam, or taking a tree or a cow and worship it, or taking a fire and worship it. I'm referring direct indications towards world religions. Islam goes beyond that. It transcends all those limited objects which are worship, and that's where people's confusion come in, that why am I limiting my devotion, my gratitude, and this metaphysical inner inertia of human beings to be devoted. Just like, for example, you are devoted.
No, Abdullah, I'm going to stop you for a sec.
Because a minute.
Okay, I will be very, very quick because you've been going on for a little while. And we do need to take more calls. And we're so far away from the premise of your original argument right now, because it feels as though every time we've given a pushback, you've just kind of kicked the goalpost back a little bit so that we could have a discussion about something else. We went all the way from the universe starting to exist and a generic creator, right down to now you're asserting that this is what people's problem is. You did it to me previously, and you just did it in your brief conversation or your brief little monologue there. You said, this is the reason people X, right? People believe this because X. This is the problem people have. So you're ascribing problems to other people and then fighting that straw man, and instead of having a conversation with us, right? So I asked you a couple of different questions and I still don't have a good answer to them. But then you're telling me that I'm interrupting you and I'm trying to make sure that you're being listened to. But what I'm actually trying to do is get to the gist of what the original argument is instead of going down all of these other paths. So that now we're having a conversation that isn't even the conversation we intended to have.
Okay, so if you go back real quick to the original premise that the universe why can't we accept a creator? And you question about these beings, Malaika and Jinn. And I said Malaika are, God's knowledge, in God's knowledge, pre-exist. And they are not physical beings, they're metaphysical beings, and they are outside our time boundary. So my original premise still stands that the universe, which came from the singularity, and it took 13 billion years, Islam is in sync with that. Islam never gives a false time period to this universe, unlike the Christian.
Was that the only issue that I had with your premise, though?
Years, whatever it is.
That wasn't the only issue I had with your premise,
Well,
though. You haven't demonstrated that there was nothing. You haven't demonstrated that there was nothing prior. You haven't demonstrated that it isn't cyclical. You haven't demonstrated why God was motivated to create. Like all of these are still problems for me. And you telling me the reason that they're problems for me and then asserting something about me that isn't even the case is not going to solve that for me. So we do have to move on. We've had this call for a really long time. I appreciate the conversation. I hope you did feel heard.
Thank you.
So, all right. Thank you. Have a good rest of your day.
You guys took.
Oh, sorry.
We appreciate you too.
We do.
Not Arden, evidently.
It's always like the drop call button has like a 3-second delay when you hit it when it happens. So I always try to time it so it like is as efficient as possible. And sometimes you miss. Okay, I'm sorry to Abdullah and to the viewers.
That's all right. That's all right.
I messed up.
I forgive you.